Hi, Model Chili here, and I've been working on this Bandai Y-Wing kit, which is a 1/7/2 scale, and I've been posting photos up on my blog as I've been working my way through it, and I've had quite a few questions on how I achieved this chipping effect on the red stripe here. So I thought I'd do a quick video on how I do chipping effects. I will stress though that this is by no means the only way to do chipping. I've seen various different techniques, but this is the way I prefer to do it. And I won't, I'm by no means an expert on the subject, but this is how I usually do chipping, and so I just thought I'd share it with you guys and see what you think. So basically all I do is just use a sponge and dab it onto the colour to get the chipping effects needed. So I use just these sort of sponge sticks that I just picked up from a sort of hobby store. These are just used for kids projects, I think, just painting and making various shapes and textures. So basically just tearing a little piece off that, and this is my sort of chipping surface that I use. So what I'm going to do now is doing a bit of chipping on the canopy there. So I dip the sponge into the paint, which is just going to match the base coat. And just sort of rub it off a bit, so a little bit of paint on the end there, and then just sort of lightly dabbing onto the surface, just starting off lightly just so I can get a feel for how it's working, and then getting gradually stronger as I work my way across. So just sort of focusing on the edges mainly, where most of the paint is going to be exposed. I also make sure to rotate the sponge just to get make sure I get different patterns coming out. And just a little bit on the top there. So you can see here it's starting to build up quite nicely. I'll get around the side as well. And we can also add, so let's just paint chips, a couple of little streaks across the top, just so that if there's microparticles or anything sort of glancing across the ship. Scraping the paint as it hits. Of course, the trick is always knowing when to stop. I mean, you could sort of go too far. I think that's looking good so far. I'll just do a bit more around the back here. So you can see I pretty much dabbed the paint just once, and that was enough to do the whole area. So you don't really need too much paint. I might just swivel this gun around so I can get a little bit on this. So the canopy has sort of an opening here, or a hatch or something. So that's going to get a bit of wear and tear. Right, so I think that should do for that one. So now it's time to start chipping the base coat of the Y-wing. So I've got a new piece of sponge, and I've just got a bit of dark grey on the end there, so let's get some lighting. So I'll start showing that the sort of the base colour, the base metal of the ship is starting to show through. Again, focusing on the edges here. And just start working my way around. Of course, this technique I've used before on mainly tanks and armour. And that's mainly been in 1/35 scale, so this works across small and sort of larger scales. You just have to sort of up the size of the sponge bit or the pressure you apply to get different size chips. And of course just using different colours. So I can still use it on this red area, so we can assume the paint is chipped through the red and also chips through the light grey to expose the bare metal underneath, and the same for the canopy. So we can have different layers of chipping across the model. Right, so that pretty much wraps up the chipping for now. There's a few more steps I need to do on the model before it's finished, but yeah, as far as the chipping goes, I think that'll pretty much be it. There's a couple of decals I need to put down the side of the front section there, which will need to be chipped as well, but yeah, apart from that, that's all done. So as I've mentioned before, this isn't the only way to do chipping. It really all just depends on how you prefer to do it. I guess the main advantages of this technique is you can use multiple colours to do different layers. You can apply it where you need it. You don't really need to do much planning before you put down the base coats, and then you can chip away afterwards. And I guess the disadvantage is, see, you are technically adding up layers, whereas chipping you're supposed to be taking away layers, but as long as you keep the paint thin and light, you shouldn't really find it's too lumpy, and it can still look rather convincing. But let me know what you think of this technique or how I've applied it. I'm always interested in hearing feedback, good or bad, and if you have any other questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I look forward to reading them. And thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.